So yeah, building a grassroots democracy, strengthening communities' capacity to engage. We're a national organisation rather than a local one, right? So I think we have a somewhat different perspective as to what the relationship is between these big national issues around democracy, and I think that our organisation is coming from a perspective that there are, in fact, national problems that need to be solved locally as well as nationally. So the Electoral Reform Society, some of you may be aware, has been about for about 130 years. After about 125 years, they decided that the electoral system may not be the be-all and end-all of democratic politics. So although we still campaign and believe passionately in proportional electoral systems, we also believe that deepening public involvement in our democracy is absolutely key. And to that end, we've been advocating a UK-wide constitutional convention, which would bring people from the grassroots around the country to talk about the future governance arrangements of the UK, ranging from local government right the way through to the future of the Union and these bigger questions. We've also been advocating for a deeper public involvement in the devolution process. Now, in the political context, when we thought there was going to be some sort of hung parliament in 2015, it looked very much like a constitutional convention was going to be on the cards. However, with the majority caused by first past the post of the Conservative government, the agenda moves swiftly on towards this question of devolution within England. And I think these two questions are both sort of connected by this idea of where does power lie, right, and where ought power lie. So one example we had of trying to decide these sort of vexed questions of deciding or sort of rationalising or getting people's input into the complex questions of British local government and the rearrangements that were going on with the sort of rhetoric around the Northern Powerhouse and this whole halting march of devolution, as it turns out, was citizens' assemblies. So we teamed up with a bunch of academics from Sheffield, Westminster, Southampton, and ran 2 citizens' assemblies over a number of weekends. And we were drawn on these on international examples, in fact, right? So in Ireland recently they had a constitutional convention to decide upon important issues around the Irish constitution. They've been used in Iceland and other places, but they've also been used for more small-scale things, for issue-specific events, such as the conversation around the future of the electoral system in Canada, and also things like citizen juries, which are used to decide where nuclear waste should be disposed of, and that's been done in Australia, for example. So we're using the sort of best practice of international examples to show that it can in fact be done in Britain to deal with a very complex issue such as the future of local government. And to do that we use random selection, so actually using getting a cross section of the population, using gender and demographic balance, geographically, social class, and sort of using these different types of categories so that people come to the assembly not as a representative of an interest group like the trade unions or the CBI or the church groups, but actually as themselves, right? Because I think we all have multiple identities, and I think by using random selection you're actually able to get a much better cross section of that than these interest groups who claim to represent people. So facilitating conversations were absolutely key to ensure that we don't replicate the imbalances of power that actually inhibit the function of our democracy in these spaces, right? So that we don't have people who usually have the loudest voices or the pointiest elbows dominating the whole conversation, right? Time and resources. This is absolutely key and one of the biggest difficulties I think you'll all recognise in terms of fostering a deeper democratic culture. And the fact is that these things only really work. Democracy only really work if it's given time and if it's resourced properly, right? I think it's absolutely key, and it's a major political point as well, because unless we recognise that the outcomes are going to be below par, it's going to discredit potentially very useful, innovative experiments and processes that we actually need to reinvigorate our democracy. And just another point on the political context, I think that whenever we're bringing people into this type of democratic process, such as citizens' assemblies, or we're talking about how we're going to reform local government, unless people can see that there's a clear outcome, right, from them, because people have to invest their time in democracy if it's really going to work, right? And people will simply are not willing to do that. And nor necessarily should they be, unless they can see a clear output, right? Unless they can see clearly that their voice will be heard and their opinions will in fact be enacted. So just to finish up here, I think there's major questions around constitutional questions, questions around the future of democracy in Britain, devolution, as I say, the halting march of devolution in the north of England, the issues around Brexit, the future of the union itself. All these are major questions that the solutions to which will not in fact have any legitimacy unless there's more popular voices heard in the processes. And we have to find new methods and new ways of actually getting those voices heard. I pointed out one here, citizens' assemblies, but I think there's multiple ways. I think people in this room have actually provided numerous different examples of the ways of getting people involved in a really productive way. So that's it.